USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Meet the most capable CR-V Honda has ever dreamed of. The all-new CR-V Trail Sport Hybrid. With all-terrain tires and available enhanced traction control, it's built for wherever the day takes you. Heated front seats and a heated steering wheel, ideal for winter drives and crisp early starts. And with generous cargo space, it's ready for big gear and even bigger getaways. The CR-V Trail Sport Hybrid. Learn more at honda.com/CRV.
I think I've got my first chapter.
I'll read your first chapter if you read mine.
Hello, this is Cathy, and this is The Cinemile, the podcast where my husband Dave and I record our walk home from the movies, which comes out every Sunday. But this is not that podcast, because this is my spin-off series where every Saturday with a guest I review the latest episode of And Just Like That, because I cannot help myself. And today's guest is the fabulous Deirdre O'Shaughnessy, opinion editor and podcaster from the Irish Examiner. Welcome, Deirdre.
Hello, delighted to be here.
Thanks for coming on. Deirdre's just done a phenomenal thing, which is she's binged the last 6 episodes of And Just Like That in 1 week. How's it been, Deirdre?
Oh, amazing. I've really enjoyed it because it's so bad. It's so bad. Oh my God. I actually watched it the other night because my husband was out, and I said I wanted to watch it so that I could listen to the podcast along with it, because you know the way when Sex and the City came out first, obviously I was living with my parents because I was young and my mother wouldn't let me watch it, so obviously then I had to watch it. And but you know the way in college you watched it and you had like people to talk to about it, so this is my version of that now, where I have a podcast to listen to because my children are too young. I didn't think my husband would be interested. He actually came home and was like, I can't believe you watched it without me. Like, what? Sorry, what? So now he's watching with me, which is good because we've been discussing it a lot. But it's yeah, oh wow, so much to say.
What a ride. I think 6 in a week is maybe too much, and like you need a break after this. However, the upward trajectory, it's been getting better each episode, hasn't it?
It definitely has. And actually, it was only when I was listening to your last episode that I realised I didn't watch season 2 at all. Because I was a bit like, hey, who are these people and what happened? I was so upset at how bad it was after season 1 that I actually stopped watching it. So I've been on a break from it as well, and from all the characters. I got really annoyed by Miranda and Shay. I hated that storyline. I thought it just badly served everybody, and I just was really sick of all of them. I was like, just shut up, everyone. Like, Carrie was always annoying. I mean, that was her whole personality, but they kind of all became annoying, and I was like, that's not the way this was before. Yeah. So I had given it a break, but actually I'm glad to be back. And as you say, it is getting better. There was like the writing in episode 6, I think, is superior, say, even to what it was in episode 1. It's a little bit more flowy. Like, even I think in episode 5 there was loads of bits where it looked like they just chopped a bit out because the scene ended really suddenly and you didn't have time to kind of absorb it, or you didn't know what the characters were going to react to something, and then they'd moved on to somebody else. Whereas this one, I think episode 6, it gave you a little bit more time with everybody. Yeah,
it really did. It's such a good episode, and it's interesting because for those of us who got screeners, like advanced press screeners of this show, the advanced screeners ended on episode 6, which I think was a great idea because it's a great episode. And before we get into it, Deirdre asked me to write an article for the Irish Examiner this week, which will be out by the time this podcast airs. Deirdre, why did you feel the need to commission an article about this series? And by the way, I love that. And thank you.
Yeah, so, well, I commission a lot of things that are very, very serious. And obviously, you know, this is not as serious as all of those things.
How dare you?
I suppose the big thing for me is always, like, every sort of work of art or cultural expression, I mean, that might be too highfalutin a term for what is essentially a TV show about shoes, or was. Like, everything has sort of a cultural context, and I think with Sex and the City, it was really very much originally, I mean, did you read the original book, by the way? So that's where I'm always coming from with this.
Yes, I have read the book.
The book
I never
is
referenced
gritty.
that. I forgot to reference that in my
The
article.
book is gritty, and the book is kind of nasty, and the book is a lot of things that the show wasn't, right? But there was a core of that in the show, of that there was things that happened that were kind of quite unpleasant, like the life that the girls were living. Carrie particularly in the book, I suppose, is just a bit seedy. Like there are points in the book, for example, where Carrie essentially sleeps with someone because she's broke, and you know she knows they're going to like feed her for the weekend, kind of thing, and take her out, and she won't have to pay for dinner or anything for a week if she kind of hangs on to this. And there's like it's very much a young single girl kind of struggling to make her way in the book. And in the series, obviously the original series, it moves on a little bit from there, but there are times when people are broke, and there are times when things are kind of unpleasant in a very gritty way. And by the time the movies came about, like that was completely gone. Any bit of realism or grittiness or sort of underbelly was just totally removed out of the whole thing, and it had become a bit of a pastiche of rich women and shoes.
Yeah, the wealth isn't even the subject, so I was glad you asked me to write about it, because we haven't really talked about it this season, because the wealth is really just the backdrop now, and
it's just a given.
It's a given, and I was really glad to have the chance to write about that, because I haven't really talked about it. And also, if you'd given me an open-ended, said write anything about it, and just like that, what I would have written was an Aidan hit piece. So I'm glad.
I hate Aidan. I always hated him.
I'm glad you steered me into a more interesting path. So thank you, Deirdre. And I'll share it in the show notes. But it's such a great idea. Obviously, to me, that's like the perfect commissioning editor. Like, what else would you be looking for other than in just like that? Think pieces. There's a lot to get to on this episode. Now, Aidan, dear God, we'll get to you. But we're going to start with Carrie. And this is the opening to the episode. And I'm sorry Rosemary isn't here to read it now. Lilies of the valley in the garden bowed their delicate white bonnets to the rain as the woman inside braved the unknown. What do you think about Carrie's book as an editor?
The woman, who would read a book where every single thing that is said about the protagonist is the woman looked outside at the weather. That's not writing. Like, what, AI wrote that? Like, that is what? Who's the woman? What's her name? Like, I know it's trying to be all mysterious. It's not mysterious. It's stupid. It sounds stupid. It really bothers me. And they're calling it romantasy, but all I'm getting from it is historical fiction so far. There hasn't been a sign of a vampire or fairy or dragon or anything that would make it romantasy.
And also, it's not historical fiction just to say the word bonnet every now and then, or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and 1845.
Exactly. I've been thinking about it this week, and I wonder if the woman thing will be like, you know, the way in the final episode of Sex and the City when we finally found out Mr. Big was called John. And like, are they leading to some reveal around this woman's name? And like, nobody cares. And luckily, this is all we got of the book this week. Though I did like when she said to the neighbour over their dinner, don't think great expectations, think lower your expectations. That was a self-aware line. And maybe Carrie's just going to say at the end, she might say at the end of the season, like, do you know what? That's a load of shite, and I'm going back to my column. And that would be a fun way, I think, for this to go.
Yeah, it would, because, oh, well, man, it's such an indictment of the publishing industry that Carrie thinks she can get this published. Like, is it because she's a name? I just can't see how anyone thinks this is writing. Like, she's just written a load of things about an unnamed woman looking out the window. Like, that's like literally all it is in every chapter.
Handed to this, like, what's his name? Duncan, the world's most celebrated biography writer. And he's going to read this shite. And then they're going to have hot sex. We hold out for that. So after she has the dinner...
hopefully.
She holds out... She goes upstairs and phones Aidan, and in fairness to her, makes another good joke. We're straight into it with Carrie. You know, she's got acid reflux of the lamb. I'll take it. But then Aidan says, Duncan, like Dunkin' Donuts. And it's like, oh, here we go, Aidan. Mr. Personality.
I am a hick. Yeah. He's just such a hick. Like,
he's he's hawking and spitting on this call as they're speaking.
He's just a hick. Like, surely, I mean, I can't remember Carrie's exact origin story, but didn't she come from some random place in the Midwest? Like, why is she going back there? Didn't she leave that place, whatever it was, to go to New York to escape from Aidan?
Do you know what I forgot to mention in the article as well? Damn it, I forgot to mention the original book, and I forgot to mention the seminal piece that was the Carrie Diaries. Did you watch it?
No.
Oh, I watched it.
I didn't.
Oh, I watched
every
episode. I mean, I have to say I really enjoyed it at the time, and I was well into adulthood, so I really should have known better. It was very good for what it was, and I remember it like actively contradicting the series, Though I can't remember how now, but they didn't line up, and she wasn't. She was a very stylish teenager. Anyway, off that. Next we see Carrie at the bread shop. I'm not even going to get into the scene. It was so boring because we'll speak about Charlotte and Seema and Miranda later. But it's just basically a kind of meet together moment to remind us Anthony does have a plot other than, I guess, showing up at Charlotte's house every week.
Yeah, I don't really understand that whole storyline with Anthony. Like, I mean, do they not have HR laws in New York? Like, I know they're not great at that stuff in America, but seriously, like, I mean, everyone in his place is there to be sexually harassed. Like, that's the purpose of those staff.
Yeah.
Like, even in New York, I feel like that wouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess it's like a Hoosiers, but like a load of listeners' messages saying, but why isn't he planning weddings anymore? And that's a good question.
COVID, maybe, but yeah, it is.
That's a good point, actually. Michael Patrick King said he wants this to be like the central meeting place. Okay, fine, but why does Anthony have to run it, you know?
Like, do you not remember the hard time they all gave Samantha the time she got like a tummy from eating bread? Like, how are they all suddenly eating bread? Are they all on Ozempic now as well? Like,
oh yeah,
that
they are not eating bread, like, whatsoever. And then next scene we kind of go back again. It's like Aiden shows up. Aiden throws rocks at Carrie's window at this point. What is he doing?
He's just an idiot. He's an idiot.
It's so unromantic.
Now, I know. Yeah, but he was always really bad at interpreting those like romantic things, and their idea of what's romantic never seemed to line up. Like, I always actually felt, and I know it didn't end well, and it wasn't, the storyline didn't play out very well, but I always actually felt that Alexander Petrovsky was what the sort of romance that Carrie was actually looking for, because you do have this sense of like, you know, that she was a bit bookish or whatever as a whimsical young person, and that sort of whimsical foreignness was the sort of romance that appealed to her. And then here's Aiden with his clunky "I'm 14" throwing stones at the window of your priceless mansion after I rocked up in my truck. Like, I just know, like, he's an idiot.
It doesn't work. And then he breaks the glass, and I guess it's like, you know, it's the symbol of the relationship that's about to shatter. And that night he like won't come to bed with her. He's being a bit funny. Now, I did not guess what was to come. Like, I screamed when we found out. He leaves a Post-it, which I think is a very unfair and triggering thing to do to Carrie, who has been dumped by Post-it, and presumably he knows this.
Yes.
And then Harry goes off to the Tiffany breakfast, which you've kind of alluded to already, Bitsy being left out. Like, this was fine, but like, whatever, get back to Aiden. And he's back, and she says, stop acting weird, give me a kiss. And then we get the bombshell, which I screamed at my laptop. I slept with Cathy. What did you make of all this?
I actually thought this was the best bit of the whole show.
It was,
I thought the conversation that they had about it and her reaction was the most mature we've ever seen Carrie.
Yeah, I
like,
agree.
it was the most realistic, middle-aged relationship, and I say this with love, and you know, some level of empathy, but it really was the most mature, realistic conversation between two adults about infidelity I think that I've ever seen on screen. Like, you know, I mean, look, she loves him. We don't know why, right? But she loves him. And she's accepted all of this shit that's going on in his personal life, which is what middle-aged people come with, right? We all have loads of baggage at this point in our lives.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're substantially older than you and I, Cathy, obviously, right? But, you know, we all fit into that same, like, I don't know, 40 to 60 demographic on the census or whatever it is now. But the way she handled it in terms of, this is where we are in our lives, these are the choices we have made, this is what I have accepted, you know, these are all the compromises we've already made about staying together. Okay, I understand it. And I was trying to think of how she would have reacted, like, in the series or whatever, and she obviously would have fallen to bits because she was in a different part of her life then, and she hadn't experienced as many sorrows. And yeah, I was like, that was actually really well handled. It was quite well scripted. I thought the body language even was good. And their body language is always weird anyway, because he's like twice her height. So
I know,
like, how they even get them in one shot, I don't know.
They did really zoom out. They actually do.
They really have to zoom out. Like, I'd say they're going to start a thing where she's like always standing on a step when they're talking to each other or something. But I thought it was really nicely done, and it was done from a place of just total emotional maturity, which is a first, I think, for her.
I totally agree with everything you've said. The writing was wonderful, and I think what we are reminded of here, albeit Carrie never talks about him anymore. Like Carrie's husband died. Like Carrie's experienced true grief and true loneliness, and she understands also how you can fall back into the arms of an old lover, having herself cheated on Aiden with an old lover, and I think all of that, as you say, life experience comes together. And she says, yeah, I understand why you would have slept with Cathy. Now, Cathy's poor boyfriend, by the way, who we have already kind of realised has been terrorised by Aiden back in the family village. I feel so bad for this man because Aiden's obviously been a complete asshole to him, and now Aiden slept with his girlfriend. But I think that what I love about this scene, right, and I agree with you, it's totally well written, and it actually harked me back to a more explosive scene, but one of the best relationship scenes I think has ever been written, which is the movie The Breakup, where Jennifer Aniston and Vince Vaughn get in a fight about the dishes, and he's like, I don't want to do the dishes, and she says, I want you to want to do the dishes, and he says, who the fuck wants to do the dishes? And they're like, they were speaking the same language, but they were like on different planets, and I've always empathized with that I want you to want to do the dishes side of that. And when he says to Carrie, you know, I'm so sorry I betrayed you. And she says, huh? You didn't betray me. And he says, we agreed to wait for each other. She says, I never agreed to that. And she says, you expected me not to sleep with someone else for 5 years. And then immediately he starts saying, wait, you want to sleep with someone else, and getting all macho. And she's like, I don't want to sleep with someone else. You're the one who slept with someone else. But I never agreed. And this is where the promise at the end of season 2 to wait for 5 years, which you missed, but which sparked so much.
Yes, I did. Coming to that cold. Yeah.
Sparked so much debate. And now it's really interesting to know, this is what we all, I thought she had said she'd be, I was confused by that as well. But I love when she says, we've never talked about this till now. And what we realize is, and we've already known throughout this whole series, they have no good communication skills. Like together, they aren't working. As you say, the chemistry within this was so good because we've seen these two fight before. We've seen these two break up, once very violently and once very empathetically. And they've been through a lot. And like, I still understand why she said, I love you. And she still slept with him and they went to bed together. But this now really this finally opens the door, I think, for what I've been begging for, which is for Carrie to just bloody date other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I mean, what age are they supposed to be?
I think they're like minimum late 50s, I think.
It's like 5 years is a long time.
And as like, you know, as Carrie knows, life can be
They're
gone
not getting any younger.
No.
Yeah.
And like, sorry, she's got a neighbour that hot living under her for 6 months a year.
Yeah. Like I can picture a lot of like, I mean, he's much hotter than Aiden anyway. And
that's for sure. And
this sort of tortured novelist thing definitely appeals to her. I mean, he's much more fit for her actually than Big in some ways.
Oh, and he also, like, you know, he's a busy man and he'd be gone again to London. Like, there's a lot of freedom in someone like him. And she's very flirty with him, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's really flirty with him. And then we kind of get to the, like, okay, there's a bit, we'll get to the funeral piece when we talk about Lisa, but like Aiden and the funeral plan splitting and they kind of, you know, breaks the ice and all that. Where I love at the end when Aiden's leaving and Duncan comes up and Aiden's like, oh shit. He looks at Duncan and he's like, oh wait, the Dunkin' Donuts was maybe not the right analogy. He knows. This hot writer is coming up to share his chapter for Carrie to read. Get away, Aiden.
Yeah, he knows. I mean, I've never really understood what Aiden and Carrie are supposed to have in common, like, or what the attraction even is, or whatever. But at least, like, on paper, anyway, this guy and Carrie do have a lot in common, even if they're wildly different types. But like, he going back to the Petrovsky thing, he has that bit of sort of tortured European romance that Carrie loves. Yeah. But also, as you say, he'll be gone for half the year. There's no major commitment there. I mean, it's fine, isn't it?
And the ultimate betrayal that I'm now plotting is that Carrie sleeps with him on the table that Aiden bought her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you think her hip would be up to that?
She did get it replaced. I can't remember, was it season 1 or season 2?
Speaking as someone with a hip replacement myself.
Yeah, you empathise.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, you empathise.
I also don't know how she walks in those shoes, by the way. Like, not going to happen.
Yeah.
With a hip replacement.
Even I don't have a hip
Maybe there's
replacement.
someone else out there who can.
I can't even walk in those shoes. And then we'll get to Charlotte now, I think, because I really, like, I thought the end scene with Charlotte finally admitting that Harry's sick which she kind
Yeah.
of throughout the episode, she's bumped into Bitsy in the cancer center. Fine, she didn't admit it there. There's a scene of her and Harry talking about his treatment plan. There's a very annoying scene with Harry watching TV. But when we finally get to Charlotte, so I think they bump into each other in the pharmacy because I think Carrie's buying like indigestion tablets because they kind of kept showing her taking them throughout, and then Charlotte goes out of her way 'cause she's buying the adult diapers. It was such a lovely scene. I was crying at this.
Yeah, it was. And I thought I don't really like the way Charlotte has reacted to the cancer thing. I think it's not true to her. Myself, my husband had a big discussion about whether it was true to her character or not. I felt that she wouldn't be as kind of hysterical about it. I thought she would much more quickly go into like mom mode and be all, this is your appointment and you're juicing now and you're doing, doing all this stuff. Like I thought she might go down into the sort of wellness rabbit hole rather than anything else. But I thought that scene was very much more them and the old them and the way the friendship worked a bit as well. Although given it was Carrie, like how Carrie didn't interrupt her in the middle of her big crying session about Harry's cancer to tell her about breaking a nail or something is I don't know how that didn't happen because that's usually her style.
She's really matured. Like it's matured.
Yeah.
And it brought me back to, and it was in season 4 when Miranda's mom died. And at the end, remember she's walking back down the funeral and Carrie like supports her down the aisle. And I think there was notes of that in this because we also have the plot with Lisa's dad. Charlotte crying at the end was really good crying. It was a great way to end the episode. Gave me shivers. So this episode I both screamed and gasped because of Aiden and then like shed a tear at the end because of Charlotte. So I was more moved than I have been.
Yeah, no, it was good. Like I thought it was much. It had those emotional highs and lows, which the other episodes didn't have. I don't think, and I think apart from Big dying in season one didn't really have it either. Yeah. Obviously him dying was quite an emotional thing, but other than that, like the I don't know though. Harry like is so annoying that I don't have any enormous sympathy for him, which is terrible because he's been a character for so long. They've really turned him into like a kind of an annoying, not grumpy, but like a sort of a just irritating old guy. And he was always a bit of a character, but there was more to him. It's a bit like what they did to Steve.
It is, yeah. I think they write male characters like very poorly in this show, but like last episode we got a really nice sense of them as a couple again when he told her and they were out for a walk, but like him screaming at the TV this time, what is that? Right, we're going to take a break and then we'll be back to discuss the rest of the episode.
On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
Right, so on to Lisa, who we have been kind of hoping and praying on this podcast is about to have an affair. And damn it, but that plot got derailed this episode. There's a lot of grief in this episode, wasn't there? Very serious.
Yeah, there was. And I thought I liked the storyline with Lisa's stepmother. Actually, I thought that was good, and I'd like to see more of her, but I feel like we won't.
Yeah.
Because what's the link now? With the dad gone. I'm sorry we didn't know about that dynamic earlier.
Yeah.
Because I think actually it would have fleshed Lisa out a bit. I often feel with the characters in this. I mean, it's a bit like Friends. The way you never saw any of their parents except for say. Monica and Ross's parents, but you didn't see anybody, no one else had a family or background or context, I think with Lisa that dynamic could have been quite nicely weaved into the family life a bit more, because the family, I think yourself and Rosemary were saying this about all their kids and everything, are all just really one-dimensional. Like they're like, this is this character, this is this character, and there's no fleshing out of them or kind of complications with them. But the affair, I think it's pushed outside. Well, the grief makes people do crazy things.
Like Marion says, my wife thinks I'm clueless, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were married." And I don't know. I'm like, I think they're more likely to have an affair Because my theory is that
Yeah.
people who have affairs are also in long-term relationships, both sides, because it's safer to have an affair with somebody who is also in a committed relationship. That's my theory on affairs. And side note, I have listened to this amazing podcast before called She Wants More about women who have affairs. It's very, very interesting. I'll link it in the show note. But anyway, I think that's going to make her more likely to have an affair, not less. Marion slags off somebody called Kahoni. I'm like, but your name's Marion, though. I don't think you should be slagging people off. And then there's, I really enjoyed Lisa Todd Wexley and Charlotte's scene in the last episode when they were glamping and they kind of got very emotional in the pool together. And this time I think it's interesting, she gets home from the day that she's had and she phones Charlotte and it shows how close they are, and I want to see more of that because I'm actually very into their friendship. And Charlotte says a lovely thing where she says, my phone was off because I was working and I never said goodbye, and Charlotte says, yeah, but that's the work he raised you to do. And that was a lovely line.
That was nice.
There's a lot of good female friendship in this. And then we have the funeral and, you know, like, bit of a mad line where Charlotte says to everyone, you know, she's put us up the front with the family. It's like, okay.
I also wrote that down because I was like, she doesn't know half of you. Like, what? Now, I'm getting that she was an only child, so maybe they didn't have any other friends, but like there was loads of other people there who knew him clearly a lot better.
She met these girls 3 years ago. Like,
Weird.
granted, her and Charlotte are friends, and maybe we're friends longer than the series. I can't remember, but like, why is Seema and Lisa have never even spoken to each other? And of course
Yeah,
you'd
it's
go,
weird.
but you're not up near the family. And then there was that lovely moment when her husband supported her, like when she couldn't speak.
Yeah.
You know, so that was all the nice scene. And then the terrible part of me just kept thinking, okay, but when is she having an affair? When we're getting back to that plot. But as you say, they're rounding her out more. But where they're rounding her out, we need to get to Seema. They're rounding Seema down. She has had nothing going on the last 2 weeks.
No luck.
She
Yeah.
loses her
I
driver.
guess the thing with the job, the driver, this thing about her getting the train for the first time.
Yeah, but like, and you know, you're talking about the wealth in this show. We've no reason to believe that Seema's poor just because she's just lost her job. Like, Seema, I understand you're not going to have the driver driven by, you know, your employer anymore. Like, I get that. And it was funny when she played Touch Me in the Morning as she got out of the car and she had her, I like that. But like, Seema, as far as we're aware, I believe in episode 1, somebody said she owns multiple properties. Like, Seema's fine financially. You know, it's not like in the early season when Carrie actually had to get the bus.
Yeah, like she's talking about even getting a loan from the bank, but like, yeah, if she owns multiple properties, sell one of your properties. What she's
and they did that last week, and I didn't realize at the time when we recorded the episode, but that scene, you know, we said it had harkened back to when Carrie has looked for a loan years ago, but it was the same actress in both scenes, which is like kind of, I like that, a bit of fan service, albeit this fan missed it. But Steve, like, no bank would lend to you to rent out an office because you don't need an office. You can just work remotely as a realtor. So, like, what's the financial reason? But, like, she finds Miranda the apartment, as we said, and we'll get to Miranda in a minute. But I looked up, because I can't help myself, like, what would it have cost, this apartment? I love the idea of a whisper listing, by the way. And apparently a 2-bed in Manhattan would be around 1.4 million. So again, that's how wealthy Miranda is, because I guess she sold this brownstone. But what commission does an estate agent take? Like, Seema's getting some bucks from this sale too, you know.
Big time.
We're not talking about a poor group of friends here. Like, Seema's at least about to get probably 50 grand, like minimum 50 grand off this sale. Like, you're all doing okay. Seema, please God, like, she was our only dater, and they've just taken her off the dating scene now, and we get nothing.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, and Miranda's gone as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But no, maybe, do you know what? Maybe, I bet you once this sale goes through, there'll be some, like, ripple effect for Seema, and suddenly her career will take off again. She'll have an office and everything within about a week.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully. They just need to get on with this plot now. Like, so boring. Get it back to the gardener. Where was Adam Gardner this episode? And then we get Miranda. So we kind of meet her and Joy in bed. The dogs are there. And Joy's quite funny. She's like, there's a 3-day limit. Like, get out of here. Joy's like slagging, but like, you gotta leave.
She's unusually direct for an English person, like in any context, but definitely in an American show. Like, do they not understand that the New Yorkers are that direct? Like, English people wouldn't I don't think would be as direct as that.
Yeah.
And I love the way, like, Miranda's actually, like, acting normal a bit with her, whereas she must have been the most adolescent, pointless house guest anyone ever had when she stayed at Carrie.
I know.
Like, I would have booted her out myself out the window if it wasn't broken by then, but if it had been broken.
Yeah.
She was just so annoying. But then suddenly she goes to her friend's house or her new girlfriend's house, and she's all like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so nice and I'm so well behaved." Well, you're not, Miranda. You're a liar. Actually, not fit to live with anyone. When she stole Carrie's yogurt, like, you behave better, maybe. Yeah.
But she said she'd been there for 3 nights, and I'm thinking, all right, so Carrie, you left Carrie's place in probably too much of a rush, because you didn't actually need to leave that day. Like, Carrie wasn't like, you need to leave immediately, and then you move in with Joy. I love when she said, I'm not going to be the lesbian cliche where I move in after hello, but then she immediately says, but will you meet my son?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Will you meet my son? And then also that she won't buy a particular apartment because Joy's dogs can't come over.
Oh, I mean, like Miranda, like... And,
you're putting a lot on this 3-day-old
yeah,
relationship.
I think Miranda is. It's interesting what you just said about kind of adolescence, because I do think it's because she's newer on the lesbian scene that she's just she's so excitable and she's really likes Joy, but like I don't mind this plot at all and I don't dislike Joy in any way, but like I'm finding it pretty boring. Like Joy saying, oh, I don't usually date people with kids, but then she meets Brady and Brady's just like petting her dog. It was like,
and it's all fine.
like, what are we doing here? Like,
it's a pity she didn't meet Brady when he was a horrible toddler. Remember, he was a terrible toddler. Like, put me off having children for years.
Oh, that's so funny.
But yeah, like, I mean, he's harmless now.
But he shows up and he says, Mom, why are you eating outside? You hate eating outside. And I thought that's exactly when your kids tell on you. My kids constantly do stuff like that where they say embarrassing things about me in front of people. So I empathize, though. I did think, Brady, you're probably at least 23 now. Like, I don't quite know what age you are, but you don't need to be embarrassing your mum. But yeah, that scene was all just a bit fine. Move on, lads.
Yeah, it's boring. Yeah. It's a boring relationship. Yeah. Like, I mean,
bring back Shay, I'm
saying. Would have been a bit more exciting. Yeah. Bring back Mary the Nun.
Yeah, I know. We need, like, but that was so fun. And I thought, oh, every episode now Miranda's going to be dating some new guests.
Some randomer. Yeah, like some completely different demographic.
And someone really famous.
Yeah, that would have been more fun.
Yeah, that would have been really fun. Like, I'm just not into the Joy stuff at all, albeit I have no problem with her whatsoever. Right, so this was really like many episodes, the Carrie and Aidan episode, but it was just, it all flowed together better. I was along for the ride. I was messaging people saying you're gonna really enjoy the episode this week, which I hadn't done yet. What was your cringe moment of the week?
Every time Carrie writes the woman, it just absolutely wrecks my head. I can't cope with it. I'm like, Carrie, seriously, like, tell your editor what you're doing. They will immediately shut you down because it's not saleable. Yeah. It's really annoying. I just find, like, I've always found Carrie very irritating. I think I used to watch the show originally for kind of Miranda and Samantha, really.
Oh, it's always Samantha, yeah.
Yeah, like, Carrie's always been annoying, but I think she's gotten kind of more annoying in some respects. But actually, I have to say, the emotional maturity of the chat with Aidan absolutely kind of has saved her a little bit for me, because the way she used to be just very sort of irritatingly emotionally immature, and that's a real improvement in her character. It is. But yes, cringe moment is the woman. I
love your editor take where you're like, this is not saleable. But the editor thinks she's writing romantasy, though, which is like the fastest selling fiction. She hasn't a fucking clue. Yeah.
She hasn't a clue what she's writing. Oh my God, she's going to get a page full of, like, she's going to get a whole list of things of where the woman looked out the window, the woman closed her book, the woman.
And she's going to say, what? Where are the goblins? Like, where are the women having sex with goblins?
Where are the sexy elves?
I read an article recently which said that romantasy is like it's like nobody's talking about it, but it's actually propping up the publishing industry right now. It's so popular. So Carrie's
all the young people are reading.
Was onto a good thing, and now I'm not so sure. So I do think that maybe she's going to give up the ghost and just go back. Rosemary was saying that Carrie should just have a Substack, which is a great idea. Just let Carrie write again about, I don't know, about herself. My cringe moment of the week has to be Aidan breaking the glass. Aidan, what are you doing, man? You're a fully grown adult and you were chucking rocks at a window. And I know he was overcompensating because he felt so bad about sleeping with Cathy, and like, I get it, we've all done embarrassing things, but like, you've actually smashed through a very valuable, irreplaceable rainbow window that gave her joy. But again, she took that really well, didn't she? She really took it well.
I did think her reaction was really irritating.
Did you?
Sorry, no.
I thought she was, by Carrie's standard, I mean, I'd have freaked out. I'd have been like, why the fuck are you throwing rocks at my windows? Like, this is unhinged.
Do you know what the difference is here? I live in a really old house with really old windows and they fucking break all the time. So someone broke the glass in our front door by closing it.
Oh, wow. Because he did say that. Because I was thinking, my kids are like chucking footballs at my windows and they never break.
No. They and olden days glass is very thin.
Yeah.
So, and our glass is about the same age as Carrie's glass.
Right.
So I'm sure it hasn't seen as many revolutions or whatever in their glass, but actually, saw the famine. So, so maybe I just didn't. I was like, shut up, Carrie. It's an old house. You're going to have lots of disappointment in your life.
That's so funny.
Old house related.
So what you're saying is she needs to double glaze.
No, I would never say that.
No?
No, you can't double glaze a Victorian house.
Oh,
no way.
okay.
No, I mean in New York they probably don't have like laws about that. But no, I'm just saying she needs to roll with the punches.
Yeah.
An old house gives a lot, but it also takes a lot away, Cathy.
Okay, you need to give Carrie some advice then, because she's very new to this. I mean, an old house needs, I would say, furniture, which Carrie's still reluctant to do.
Actually, I think going back on the Substack thing, I think Cathy, if she did a Substack, it would end up being really boring because it would end up being about interiors and everyone would be like, this isn't what I used to read her for.
Yeah.
And she would end up getting loads of flack for it and she'd be cancelled.
Maybe her old demographic, though, is all like that age and that rich.
It's all middle-aged now anyway.
And they're all living in Manhattan.
Yeah, and rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it could do very well for her. Like, but I mean, if she actually then shared the rug she had purchased last week, she would be cancelled because that was abhorrent.
She would.
Or,
to be honest, that table, not very nice.
Horrific. Unforgivable,
It's a very
actually,
nice table.
that table.
Yeah.
Unforgivable. Thank you so much for discussing this week's episode. We had a lot to get through. Deirdre, how much fun. And thank you again for getting me to write an article. And can you tell the listeners about the podcast you've been working on for the Irish Examiner?
It's a bit different to this. Cork Crime and Jail Time. It's a 3-part series. It's just released last week, so it's on the Full Story podcast channel from the Irish Examiner. So you'll find it on Spotify, Apple, Acast, wherever you get your podcasts. And it's all about who goes to jail in Cork and why. And we're going to be launching a new one in September, the Deirdre O'Shaughnessy podcast. It'll be mainly news and other things like news. But you never know, I might get this back in there at some point.
You'll be like, it's news and reviews have been just like that.
Yeah, and just a variety of things. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a variety show, but mainly news related.
I can't believe you're getting your name on the podcast.
September.
This is big.
I can't either. I was a bit cringe about that. That's my cringe moment of last week. But marketing insisted. So
Well,
it's
look,
like, okay.
they know when they've got a good thing, you know. Do you know, I'm actually changing the cinema now to the Cathy Cullen podcast. I've decided. Don't tell
You
Dave.
should.
Don't tell Dave.
Sorry, Dave. Bye.
I can't wait to listen to that. But I've been meaning to read. I've seen a lot of the stats around the Cork jail podcast, and it's really interesting. Like, people from different parts of the city more likely to go to prison. I mean, it's like all countries really. There's different parts of populations that are overrepresented, right, in jails.
Yeah. Completely. Like and it's funny, it's one of those things where you kind of knew these things to be true, but then when you see the statistics, it's this massive data project. We did 5,000 court cases. We would be the only newspaper in Ireland that has a court reporter in the district court every day. Because obviously most of the local papers are weeklies, and in Dublin they have too many other higher courts to be covering. So we have this massive trove of information that nobody else has. And they meet the same people over and over again, a lot of the time with very similar background stories. So we went through 5,000 court cases and kind of put them into computer and saw what came out, and some really interesting stuff about kind of social policy and how we can tackle that going forward, but it's not what people think it is. It's funny because when you talk about crime, people think murders and really serious crimes, but actually most of it is really low level stuff, and it's stuff with kind of obvious enough causes, but like I said, when you get the data, you kind of you can see what's causing all of it. So yeah, it's well worth a listen. It's very interesting.
And what was the stat I saw around North Side versus South Side in terms of representation?
Yeah, so obviously in Cork people have to give their address, so it's where people are currently living, not necessarily where they're from, but something like 25% of those given jail sentences, so not the people who appeared in court and not the people who were convicted, but the people who were jailed, 25% of them gave an address on the North Side. Another 23% of them were homeless.
Wow.
And then of the remainder, we'll say like the south side obviously is in there, but it's half the stats of the north side. And you know, population wise, that doesn't really add up. So it's all socioeconomic, you know. And you look at kind of areas of deprivation, and it's funny because we knew when we were doing this research, we said, you know, is there going to be some perception that we're kind of pigeonholing or stereotyping or whatever, but like the statistics don't lie either. So while there may be discrimination in there, it's kind of not coming from us, if you know what I mean. We're just reporting what the data says. But yeah, I mean, on the podcast I spoke to a retired judge who was saying, you know, the address doesn't matter, but then it's a sociologist and a criminologist saying, well, actually there's evidence from abroad, not from here, that the address does matter in sentencing.
This is interesting.
This
is hard-hitting journalism, like Miss Bradshaw herself.
There you go.
Oh,
very like that, yeah.
No, it's fascinating. I can't wait to listen. I've done the lazy thing so far of like reading the articles that quote the podcast, but
that's okay. We want you to read those too.
Good.
No, that's good.
But no, it's my next listen now, and I'm going to link it in the show notes because I know our listeners will be very interested. All right, thank you so much, Deirdre. See you soon.
I thought throwing a pebble at your window would be cute because it's our thing.
I think maybe we need a new thing.